Good morning and a very warm welcome back to the channel. So you find me here today with the Royal Enfield Bear 650. I've just got back from test ride of the Royal Enfield Interceptor, so I feel as though I'm in a really good position to compare and contrast the two bikes and tell you whether this could be in contention for my next new bike. I'm sure you'll agree that the Bear 650 looks absolutely stunning. Royal Enfield have taken what was already a gorgeous bike in the Royal Enfield Interceptor, and in my personal opinion have made it just that little bit better. So you've still obviously got the 650 twin engine that's still pushing out 47 brake horsepower, but it does actually push out a little bit more torque, so we'll see if that's actually noticeable on the road. Of course, because this is a scrambler style bike, you've got the number board on there, which looks pretty smart. Going around to the front of the bike now. A little bit dirty this one, but yeah, you've got the headlight with the Royal Enfield logo embossed, LED indicators, and you've also got this seat, which I can tell you now is a big upgrade on that of the Interceptor. This is so much more comfortable and such a more nice and relaxing and comfortable place to be. Going around to the back of the bike, got the tail light and the indicators there. I'll just show you this gorgeous tank. I think it looks absolutely stunning. You've got the bear embossed into the tank there, which is a nice little design feature. And overall, I just think it's a cracking looking bike. The only thing I'm not 100% sure of is this screen. So I'll just turn it on. Bear 650 on the dash. Apologies for the flicker, folks. It's just the camera I'm filming on. There's no way around that. Personally, for me, I prefer the classic dials in the Royal Enfield Interceptor. I just think they're much more in keeping with this style of bike. I'm not a huge fan of TFT and LCD dashes on bikes of this kind of nature. I must admit that even on the kind of 10-15 minute ride over here to start filming, the dial did grow on me. So maybe that's something that will come in time. But for me, the classic clocks of the Interceptor just look that little bit better. The good thing about this is, by the way, is that it does have full integration with the Royal Enfield app, so you can use that dial as a sat nav as well, which is a really nice feature if you want to do a little bit of longer distance riding as well.
Okay folks, so we're riding the same test route today as I rode for the Interceptor. So we're just a few hours later, and I figure that this is going to give me a really good feel for areas that this bike excels in over the Interceptor and vice versa. So kind of first off, slow speed town riding. How does she fare? Bizarrely, I prefer this at slower speed riding to the Interceptor, and the reason for that is because it's slightly jacked up because of the suspension. The seat height's a little bit taller on this. You feel as though you've got a commanding view of the road. So if you are going to be doing a little bit of commuting, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Interceptor is absolutely perfect for that. It's not going to steer you wrong, but I prefer the slightly more commanding seating position of this bike.
So what's the seat height like on this bike? So first of all, the seat is super comfortable and is a really nice place to be. The seat height on this bike is actually 830mm, which is a 30mm increase from the Royal Enfield Interceptor. As you can see, I can't flat foot this bike. My heels are ever so slightly off the ground, so this is probably more of a bike that is gonna be kind of style over substance anyway. I very much doubt you're going to see too many of these bikes down the British green lanes, but if you do, just be a little bit wary. It's not the lowest bike in the world. For me, this is just about acceptable. I wouldn't really want anything taller than this. Just for context, folks, I'm 5'7.5". So if you're much taller than that, you'll be fine. But if you're much shorter than that, you may struggle a little bit. Now, in terms of the leg position on this, very much like the Interceptor, nice kind of natural bend in the knee there. Nothing too sporty, nothing too aggressive. So this is a bike you're going to be able to ride for hours on end without too much issue at all. Now overall, I absolutely love the look of this bike, but one thing I'm not quite convinced about is the look of the exhaust. But let's fire her up, see how she sounds.
terms of the weight on it, you know, it still holds its weight kind of fairly highly, like the Interceptor did. By far and away, the Speed 400 and the BSA felt like much lighter bikes than this. Can't remember the weight of this off the top of my head. I know it's over 200 kilos, but I'll flash it up on screen right now. The thing that a lot of people don't mention in terms of weight is that it's actually going to be better for you in terms of, you know, in terms of kind of windy conditions. So weight in some circumstances can have its benefit, but obviously for slow speed town riding, it's not really what you want. So what I'll do, we're going to cross over this little bridge here, and then I'll wind her up a little bit and just see what she's like compared to the Interceptor. One thing I will say straight off the bat with this bike is that because it's got slightly higher, slightly wider handlebars than the Interceptor, for me at 5'7.5", small in the arm as well as the leg, it does feel as though I'm a little bit stretched out. My arms are almost kind of locked out straight, and I would prefer them to be a little bit closer. Just something to note straight away. Okay, this is a little bit of a dodgy road, so I'm not going to push it too hard, but the suspension's handling with this absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. First couple of corners coming up, so let's see how she handles that. Again, probably not a great first test just because of how this is better, smoother tarmac. Let's wind her up. Okay, so much better around the corners. I've done one corner, I can tell that straight away. The Interceptor feels a little bit wallowy, and that's why so many people upgrade the suspension on that bike. But this handles really well. I rode the Interceptor straight after getting off my Triumph Street Triple, which I rode up here, and I could feel it felt, you know, nowhere near in the same class. The suspension on this feels so strong, and I'd go as far to say as it's transformed the bike. The Interceptor's great because it gives you that laid back, easy feeling nature, which is exactly what I want in a bike right now. But I would say that this has the best of both worlds, because I'm coming down from a Triumph Street Triple which handles so well, and this is kind of like almost like a good middle ground for me, I feel. If the Interceptor's over here in terms of being super laid back, the Triumph's here, the Bear sits in the middle, so actually it might be a nice compromise for me. Right, I think this is a straight road from memory. Yes, okay. I'm going to shut up, let you hear the engine, see how swift she is. Yeah, you can feel the punch. So although both this and the Interceptor are both 47 brake horsepower, this bike does have slightly more torque, and when you open the taps you can feel that. Really does make a difference. That Showa suspension is so good. Really does transform the bike. Yeah, you can definitely push on a lot more on this. If you're somebody a little bit like myself who's stepping down from a slightly bigger, more powerful bike, and you want something that looks cool, looks retro, isn't going to throw you off and kill you because it's got too much power, but you still want that little devil on your shoulder almost every now and then, this will give it to you because of the increased torque and because of the increased capability around the corners. If you're looking for something a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more sedate, and you just want to poodle around the country lanes, the Interceptor, I would say, is the better choice. A lot of it's going to come down to cost as well. You can pick up a brand new Interceptor for £5,000, prices for these start at a smidge under £7,000. Now I'd say that the increase in torque, the upgrade in suspension, and the styling warrant that £2,000 upgrade. However, if you're looking at buying a used Interceptor, which you can pick up with relatively low miles for about £3,000 now, is this bike worth £4,000 more? That, I think, is when there's more of a question.
So I've been fortunate enough now to spend a good couple of hours with this bike, really get to know it, and compare it directly with the Royal Enfield Interceptor. Overall, I think it's a cracking bike, and if you're in the market for a modern classic, this should definitely be on your shortlist. In terms of the suspension on this bike, it's a noticeable upgrade from the Interceptor. And I hate to say it because I absolutely love the test ride on the Interceptor, but this makes that bike feel so old. It really is a step up in class. So if you've got a Royal Enfield Interceptor and you're thinking it's an extra couple of grand for upgraded suspension and a bit of a styling job, I'd really urge you to get out on a Bear. It does make the world of difference. You can ride this slow and sedately like you can with the Interceptor, but if you want to push on a little bit, the suspension on this bike really allows you to do that. In terms of looks, that's subjective, but I think this looks cracking. I also think the Interceptor looks brilliant as well. Any downsides of this bike for me? No, like I said, in terms of the seat height, it's just about okay for me. If you're much shorter, you may struggle. Would I like analog dials? Yes, I would. I really would prefer that on this bike. But apart from that, there's not much wrong with it. The only other thing is, for me, being a little bit shorter in the arm as well, it's a little bit of a reach to the bars, so you can hopefully see here in the video that my arms are pretty much straight on this bike. I would like them to be just ever so slightly closer to me. Just half an inch would make a massive difference. And maybe that's something you can do, and you can adjust the position of these. Maybe, I'm not entirely sure. But overall, it's a great bike. One that is, again, on my shopping list, which is unfortunate because this is just a shade under £7,000 and is by far and away the most expensive bike I've test ridden so far. So, yeah, I need to have a serious conversation with myself, figure out what I'm going to do. Lots of options for sure. Head on to Sycamore Royal Enfield in Peterborough. Tell them I sent you. James is such a nice chap. I'll sort you out with the test ride. No issue at all. But as always, folks, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, ride safe, and until the next time, goodbye.